Hello, welcome to Tuesday the 16th of March. Couldn't remember which month it was. Tuesday the 16th of March 2021. I'm Amanda Fowler. This is Inspiring Inkin Facebook page. If you are here, could you say hello? Let's see. Right, okay. So I am just sort of sorting out my camera angle. I've moved things around again. Bear with me a second while I just run round and move things a little bit. So I want to go forwards a bit. Right, I'm hoping I'm not making you guys seasick. Whoa. Yeah. Let's see. Let's see if that works better. I'm trying to get the perfect angle, but you know, who knows? Who knows? We'll see. We'll see if it works. Right. Let's just turn the volume down. Deborah, I've literally just seen your message. You guys went an hour ahead last week, didn't you? Just on Sunday. So I'm sorry you thought you'd miss me. But, so the lovely people that are here in the UK, when do our clocks go forward? Is it next week or the week after? Don't know. Can somebody tell us? So, in a couple of weeks anyway, Deborah, we'll catch up with you. Right, so let's have a look. Let's see who's here. Janet, Michelle, Chris, Karen, Jen. Marlene, Deborah, Amanda, Donna. So Calgary's in the house, Australia's in the house. Judith's here, Janet's here, Margaret's here, Jan's here, Deborah's here, Tessa's here. Wow. Deborah, thank you. So the 28th. So for my international friends, the UK goes spring forward. So we go an hour forwards, 28th of March. So that's the week after next. Hello, Maureen. Hi, Anne. Lovely. Fantastic. How are we all? Are we all good? We all good? What exciting things have been happening in your world this week? Who's got something exciting to tell me? Type it in the comments. If you've got some news. We always like a bit of good news. I've been called for my COVID vaccination. Yes. I'm very excited. So Brian's had his, and I don't know whether we ever talked about this last year. COVID's been going on for a year. But Brian, we believe, had COVID in March last year. He was really poorly for about 3 weeks. And he had all the symptoms apart from the cough. And he had a lot more symptoms in addition to the ones that were listed at that point. But of course, there was no testing. So he was never tested. But he had his jab Saturday. He had his jab on Saturday. And he's felt a bit shabby, his words, not mine, for a few days. So a lot of people have been saying if they've had COVID, then the vaccine is making them feel a bit fluey and stuff. So, just be kind to yourselves. Take some time out, put your feet up. But getting the vaccine, if you can get the vaccine, then taking the vaccine is a really good plan. Because, it'll protect all of us. So that's really good. So let's have a look. Valerie's here, so Florida is in the house as well. Hi, Anita. Lots of waving going on. Tessa, you're actually retired now. Because I just saw your name come up and thought, ooh. So does that mean you can be here every Tuesday? That'll be awesome. How is life as a retiree? So Judith's excited because her trimmer's arrived and she's got extra blades and she's getting her COVID vaccine tomorrow. Awesome. Mum's here. Hi, Mum. Pauline saying hello. Let's have a look. Gillian's here as well. Oh, Barbara. She planted cherry and pear trees. Are they eating cherry trees or just cherry blossom trees? I love fruit trees. Hi, Claire. Sheridan's here. Lisa's daughter had her jab last week and her husband and Lisa had theirs today. Fantastic. It's so exciting. You know, not only getting your jab is a good thing to do, but actually it's a trip out. That's crazy, isn't it? It's crazy. Yeah, eating cherries, says Barbara. Yummy. That's very cool. Yeah, I'm a bit excited about the blossom in our garden at the moment. So we have a damson tree that Brian bought me for our anniversary. Don't know, 6-7 years ago. It's pretty tall now. And damsons, for those of you that don't know, are a type of a really sour plum. And they're very small. And they make the best jam and sorbets and ice cream. And oh, I just adore them. But like plums, they seem to have a year on and a year off. So last year was the year off. And I think we got 3 damsons. Which is just a disaster because, you know, you can't do anything with 3 damsons. But this year, the blossom is beginning to come out and it looks like it's going to be a bumper year. So that's exciting. And I bought Brian, I think it's a blackthorn. There's bound to be some horticultural gurus in this group of us. I think it's blackthorn sloes. So I bought him 2 sloe bushes trees. I think it's blackthorn, not sure. But this year is the first year it's had blossom on it. So we might actually get some sloes. Probably not enough to make gin because it's only about 2 foot tall, this bush tree. But, you know, it's a start. We have to go down the lanes, do a bit of scrumping, and I always have to explain what scrumping is. I don't know. I mean, I'm from Nottingham originally, and I don't think it's specifically a Nottinghamshire word. It's definitely a British word. But scrumping is where you go and help yourself to hedgerow fruits like blackberries or apples or sloes or damsons, whatever, that perhaps you're not really entitled to. So scrumping in its extreme can be, you know, going over somebody's fence. I am not condoning that, but in the woods and in the hedgerows, I think it's probably okay. So long as, you know, you make sure you leave some for the birds. That's important. So let's have a look. Da, da, da. Tessa's had her jab. Claire's booked in tomorrow. But Steve hasn't heard anything yet. Oh, that's weird. Marlene saying she loves damsons too. Oh, interesting. So Deborah's saying that sloes have a year on and a year off as well. Well, because I think they must be like a plum. Because they are very similar. Claire's saying she used to go scrumping in Oxford. Marlene's just had a parcel arrived. I'm assuming that's the Stampin' Up parcel. That's really cool. Yeah, Susan saying she went scrumping as well. Scrumping happens in Kent, says Lisa. Hedgerows, you are entitled. Scrumping is fancy. What? I think we've got a bit of a typo there, Rosie. I don't know what that is. You have to type it again. Barbara says she's from Nottingham. She used a lot there, but now she loves being in France, and she's put in brackets stealing. Scrumping. Ah, Amanda thought that it always just referred to apples. Don't know. I've used it for everything. Sue has confirmed it's a blackthorn. And she grew up scrumping in North London as well. Ah. Yeah. So what Rosie said was, scrumping is fancy stealing. Yeah. Yeah, I think it probably is. I am not recommending that you do anything illegal. Do you think that'll get me off the hook? I don't know. Oh dear. Right. I have got my coffee today. Shouldn't really be drinking this much coffee at this time of day, actually. But never mind. I thought I needed a bit more caffeine today. What was happening last week? Oh, it's just crazy busy last week. I had my team training on Saturday, which was fabulous. But it always takes more time than I think it's going to, because there's always stuff to prep and things to do. So I was working Saturday, but Sunday obviously was Mother's Day. So Brian and I spoke to our mums, and then our kids rang me. So we had a good old chat with them. And then we went to the beach for a walk and a sit. So Kiva, my very elderly border terrier, can do about a 10-minute walk, and then she needs a sit. So we didn't actually get very far. So we spent quite a lot of time at the beach, but most of it was sitting. It was blowing a gale. So there were lots of kite surfers and windsurfers out, and there was a chap, and he'd got a skateboard, and he'd obviously been out windsurfing, but he got a skateboard, and he was skateboarding along to one end of the beach, and then jumping on the skateboard and putting his arms out like this with his jacket, and the wind was blowing him to the other end at the other end of the promenade. It was so windy. It was so windy. But you know, the dog had her coat on, and we had hats and gloves and scarves and coats and everything else. Brian looked at me when we were packing the car, and he said, "Are you really taking your hat?" And I went, yeah. And it is an ongoing joke in our family that I always take my hat, always, because I hate having cold ears. You know, it can be July, and I will still have a woolly hat in the car just in case it's a bit windy and I need to wear a woolly hat. I don't think there's anything strange in that at all. Oh dear. Let's have a look. Sue said, yeah, it was rather chilly on Sunday afternoon. Yes, it was. But that was good, because we came back and had hot cross buns. Yeah, hot cross bun season it is. So they're very tasty. Yeah, Lisa says she can't wait to go to the beach again. Love being there in rough weather. And she always has her hat with her too. That's good. Yeah, I mean, I'll go to the beach any time of the year. It's only 5-8 minute drive from here. So not very far. We could walk it, but there's no way we can take the dog if we walk, because, you know, she'd never make it. She'd only make it 10 minutes away. So Joanne's here as well. Rosie said she went on an open top bus in July and had to get off and buy a cardigan. She told them that she'd wear it straight out. Yeah, exactly. I don't like being cold, but it's my ears. I don't like the wind. I don't like that at all. Okay, so I have a couple of things. No, only one thing actually. Oh, no, two things to tell you. Stampin' Up wise. The first is, you should have all got an email from me today, all of my customers, or seen on Facebook or on my blog, that from this evening in the UK, this evening 11 p.m, for Barbara and my other European friends and customers, it'll be midnight, obviously in Europe, because you're an hour ahead of us anyway. We've got free shipping on orders that are £35 or €40. So that's a saving of €4.95 or €5.95. So good saving. If you've got some bits that you need to get, then tomorrow is a good day to get them, because, you know, you can get extra stuff, can't you, for the money that you would have had to have paid for postage. So that's really cool. Shipping is pretty much back to normal now. It's fairly quick. So, you know, it's taking, I would say, give it 10 days. But it's probably 7 to 10 days, I think, at the moment. So yeah, so that'll be good. However, and here's my caveat, because it's a free shipping day, it's gonna be crazy busy. So it might just be sheer volume, and it might just take a bit longer to get picked in the warehouse. So potentially, you know, add a few extra days on, just because then you'll be happily surprised when it arrives sooner than you thought it was going to. So that's tomorrow, and then so that's the 17th. Then next Wednesday, the 24th, 7 p.m. UK time, the retired list for the annual catalogue launches. So if you're kind of new or haven't been through this process before, every year the big book, hang on, let me get it and I'll show you. The big book, this one, it's just really thick, that's why I call it the big book. This finishes on the 3rd of May, but anything that's in this book that isn't going to be in the next big book will be classed as retired, and it will go on sale while stocks last. So sometimes stuff sells out, sometimes it doesn't, sometimes it's discounted, sometimes it's not. I don't know the answer to either of those questions, but what I do know is, if there are things that you would like, then get them. Either get them tomorrow or get them on retirement day on the 24th. That way, you know, place your orders sooner rather than later is always my suggestion, because every year I get people saying, oh, I really wanted such and such, but it's sold out. And it's like, I can't, once it's sold out, even I can't get it. So, you know, unfortunately, I don't have stocks. I don't keep stocks of products. Actually, as a demonstrator, we're not allowed to. We can only keep stock of glue, actually. But, you know, I don't have any access to anything once it's retired. So do kind of make your list and check it out. So I will be emailing everybody next Wednesday as soon as I've got my hands on the retired list, and it will come out. But always going to the online store and clicking on the retired section on the online store is much easier to see, because you can actually see any discounts and anything straight away, rather than looking at a piece of paper and having to compare it to your catalogue. So yeah, so there you go. So let's have a look. Ooh. Sue is saying, have I tried Marks and Spencer's Marmite hot cross buns? No. But I did see Asda have some Red Leicester hot cross buns. Now, I often have cheese with hot cross buns, but I have cheese with fruit breads and fruit cake. So I don't think that's weird, but I like the sound of Marmite. So Lisa's asking, so have you actually tried them? Oh, they're like cheesy Marmite brioche rolls. Sound good. Interesting. So Faye's here, Katie's here. Hello. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, lots of different flavours. There was about, when I was putting my Asda list in, for the online order, there was, I don't know, about 5 or 6 different types of hot cross buns. Joanne's saying that she likes toasted tea cakes with cheese. Yeah, you see, the problem is I'll eat anything with cheese. So yeah, but I do like, I think it's the salty and the sweet together I like. It's one of my favourite things. Don't think Marlene's a fan. Oh dear. Right, okay, so I have a couple of cards to show you, which is really lovely. One I'm only going to show you a little bit, because I want to keep it a bit of a surprise. And then I am going to show you how to re-ink every single ink pad we have. And then I've got a really quick card to show you as well, which is going to help you use up some more of your scraps of patterned paper. So I hope that sounds good. Claire's saying cheese and anything fruity is wonderful. Absolutely. Yeah, Roz is the same. Okay, so this is the card. This is the card that I'm actually not going to show you how it opens and things, because I want to use this design. I could steal it, Val. I'm going to use this design in one of the craft-alongs. So, haha. So I'm not going to open it, but it's very cool and I love it. So Val was really kind. She sent me the card and she sent me the apricot fruit loaf recipe that we were talking about. Was it only last week? Might have been last week or the week before. So I'm very excited to do that. So I'll be doing that at the weekend. And then this is from Ashy. Which is a lovely card as well, and I love this texture and then a banner. So this is another good way of using some of your patterned paper, but putting a pattern on top of the embossing. It's really cool. So that is very exciting. Right, so I'm going to flip the camera around and we're going to do the ink pads first. Katie is asking for an easy apple cake recipe. I would always go Mary Berry. She's got about 3 different apple cake recipes. But always be careful that you don't leave that bits of apple too big, as otherwise it will go soggy and mushy and horrible. Right, let me cover you over and turn you around. Try not to make you seasick. Move my cup of coffee out of the way. And bring out all of my ink pads. Okay. Right. So let's let's start by explaining about all the different ink pads. Put them all in a line. Let's see if you can see all of them. Okay. So all of the ink pads Stampin' Up cells, there is, do proper English, there is a matching re-inker, okay, for everything. So you do not ever need to have a dry ink pad. You can get a re-inker for every different type of ink pad that we have. So depending on how long you have been purchasing things from Stampin' Up will depend on what style of ink pads you have. So this flat one is the current style. So this is how, if you bought an ink pad today, this is how it would come to you. Underneath, mine isn't here because I've taken it off, but underneath are stickers. And you peel them off and you put a sticker on the front and also here on the inside, so you know what colour it is. Okay, these ink pads just lift up to open. Sometimes people have trouble opening them. So, firstly, just know that there is this like finger hold, but it's easiest to turn your ink pad so it's backwards. So the writing is upside down, and then pull it towards you, she says. And then you can lift it. And then this piece slides in and locks. Okay. Now the important thing to know with these ink pads is the ink pad itself is stored upside down. So always store your ink pads flat. Don't store them on their end. Don't store them on their side. Don't store them kind of on an angle like that. They need to be stored flat. And don't store them upside down. All of those different ways of holding it can actually give you a leaking ink pad because the ink will run down. So it is designed to be the right way up and stored like that. Okay. You may have old style ink pads. These are, if you look at them, they're very different. These are sort of rounded, and they've got rounded edges, and they're they're fatter. And the way you open these is 3 dots. You press with your thumb the 3 dots, and then you grab it from the other end and lift it up. Look how much ink there is in there. And it locks in place again the same. Now, the most recent one of this style is foam, but you may have ones that are even the older style, which this bit is actually felt. And when I get to these ones, I will kind of explain to you the difference. So you need to know whether it's foam or felt on your ink pad. So these are our water-based ink pads. We then have one craft ink. Now this is a pigment ink. So these are dye-based, water dye-based inks. This is a pigment ink. These are quick drying. This one is slow drying. And this is Whisper White. So it opens up the same. You get a re-inker the same. And it's foam. And again, this is slightly, you re-ink each different one of these. You're going to re-ink slightly differently. Okay, so then we've got 3 ink pads that are sold by Stampin' Up, but are not made by Stampin' Up. Okay, so these are all ours, and these are made by different companies, but we sell them. Now, the reason, in my humble opinion, that Stampin' Up haven't made their own version of these is because these are the best on the market for their purpose. So, Versamark is a glycerin-based ink. It is really, really sticky. It's the ink of choice if you are doing heat embossing. It's fantastic. It's actually clear. Now mine does not, it does not look clear, does it? It starts out, the ink pad, it's foam, it starts out this kind of beige colour, but Versamark ink pads collect dust and ink like it's going out of fashion. It's a really, really good ink. Now, if you want to do a tone-on-tone inking technique, and you don't have a matching colour, so you want to stamp on Melon Mambo cardstock and you haven't got Melon Mambo ink, if you use Versamark ink, its name is a watermark ink pad, and it will give you a very slightly darker tone when you stamp on a coloured cardstock. So it's honestly, it's so useful. If you haven't got one of these, you need one. But it's slow drying and it's very sticky. Then there is Stays On, and this does exactly what it says on the tin. It stays on. It will stamp onto acetate, it will stamp onto vellum, it will stamp onto wood, it will stamp onto almost anything really, and it stays put. Don't use Stays on your photopolymer stamps, it doesn't like it. And make sure you clean off Stays On as well. It's a solvent based ink. If you smell it, it smells of marzipan, smells of almonds. It does specifically say on the packet, do not inhale. But it smells very nice. And Stays On comes with this kind of cover over. Don't lose that. You need to keep that. Because it's solvent based, it evaporates. And this is a felt ink pad. So it's really tough and hard wearing. Oh, it smells so good. Right. So that's stays on. And then there is Memento. Now, Memento ink is a bit of a hybrid kind of ink, really. It's a water-based dye ink, but it is also good for colouring in and, you know, images where you colour in. So Memento, because it's water-based, you use this with your alcohol pens. So our Stampin' Up version is called Blends. You cannot use blends with stays on because of the alcohol and the solvent. It'll smear the images, but Memento is the one that you use. If you want a black ink to use with photopolymer stamps, Memento is the one. It is also a felt ink pad. Okay, so I'm going to work right to left. So I'm going to start with the stays on and I'll get back. Sorry, I'll start with Memento and I'll get back to the other colours. I've got some wet wipes here because I'm going to have to clean stuff as I go. And these are these are my two tools of the trade. So I have this is a bone folder that I use for re-inking, and I like to use this because it's a bit like a spatula for putting icing on a cake. I can kind of spread it really well. You can use the back of a spoon as well, and because you can use the curved part of it to kind of massage in, and that will work a bit better with the foam ink pads. Don't use anything sharp because you don't want to cut into your ink pads, and don't kind of gouge into it. Now, each different type of ink, an ink pad, needs a slightly different amount of ink, but there are some kind of rules to follow. And the first thing I would say is put less ink on, try it, and then put more ink on. That is way better than putting too much ink on your ink pad. And if you put too much ink on your ink pad, you're going to end up having to get some kitchen roll and dabbing it, and it's just going to be really annoying. Okay, so Memento. So this is a felt ink pad. So I'm just going to get my re-inker, and I'm just going to go backwards and forwards, and you will be able to see where it soaks in straight away. Those areas need more ink. Right, so I am really conscious that this is black on black. So I will bring it up a bit higher and see if you can see that bit better. Okay, so can you see that this now is just taking a little bit longer to sink in? This does not need any more ink. Okay, so I'm going to get my bone folder, and I'm just going to massage it in, and basically you can see as I'm kind of scraping it along, it's kind of moving along, and you just want to make sure that you've massaged it all the way over. In most ink pads, you will ink your stamp in the center of the ink pad. So it's normally the middle that needs more ink. All right, okay, so I'm just gonna use some baby wipes to clean that off. Okay, so that's Memento. Stays on is pretty much identical. The consistency of the ink is the same. And you can see that this barely needs any ink at all because it's just sitting on the top. Okay, so this is actually, we're going to end up with a really juicy over-inked ink pad. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to massage this in. But look, can you see? This is, you do not want this. It will soak in eventually, but it's just going to take a bit of time. Right, I'm just going to let that sit just for a minute. And I'll just put it up here for a second and then I'll come back to it. I'll show it to you when it's sunk in a little bit better. Okay, and then Versamark. Now this one is fun because this ink is, like I said, it's made of glycerin and it is so gooey and you have to really squeeze hard to get the ink out. Can you see it just kind of sits there as little tiny blobs? So it doesn't flow, it just kind of blobs. I'll just bring it up. So it just sits on the surface. So all you're going to do with this is just use your bone folder and just massage it in. Okay, so that's that one done. Right. So, sticky ink, let's just carry on with the sticky ink, which is this craft ink. And again, this is really Faye's asking if this refill will work on a non-Stampin' Up! Versamark. Absolutely, Faye, because Versamark is the same. So long as it's the watermark stamp pad. Versa do lots of different types of ink, but if it's a Versamark ink pad, then the Versamark re-inker will work. So you've got this white craft ink. Now when this comes to you, when you buy a white craft ink pad, the ink pad is dry. There is no ink on it whatsoever, and you'll get a bottle. And you need to just spend a bit of time with this, getting it all massaged in. So I will just show you. You actually need to put quite a lot of ink on it. So I tend to use a spoon for this, and I'm just kind of massaging it in. And you can see that the ink is kind of going to the edges, so that's good. And you're just looking for kind of even coverage. So by using the spoon, it just maneuvers the ink around. Okay, but this is quite a sticky ink because obviously it's a pigment ink. Okay. So let's just go back to that Stays On ink. It's almost all sunk in. But you don't want to do that, because what you're going to end up having to do is this, which is get a piece of paper, cardstock or paper, and put it over the top, because you don't want that ink to run off everywhere. So you're going to have to do this, which is to lift off some of the ink, and that's obviously a waste of your ink, so you don't want to do that. So put a little bit on, try it and see. Okay, so let's go to our standard water-based ink pads. And they are actually exactly the same if they're foam. Okay? So you need to check. If they're foam, they will take much less ink than a felt ink pad will take. But they will need to be re-inked more often. Okay, so little and often with the foam ink pads. If you've got a felt one, you'll put more ink on it, but less often. Right, okay, so let's have a look. Lynn's saying, could you leave it to evaporate a little bit? Yes, you can for Stays On. Because it's solvent-based ink, you can absolutely let it evaporate. Right, so Faye, she's got a different type of pigment ink. Not all inks are created equal. So for me, absolutely the best ink for embossing is Versamark. You can use our white, this craft ink as well, but I would absolutely give Versamark a go. Right, so these two are exactly the same, so I'm going to re-ink this one just because I'm hoping that you can see it's got lots more lighter spots on it than this one does. It just makes it easier to see. So knowing that you don't want to put too much on here, you just give it a little squeeze and just do a little bit of a zigzag one way, and then go a little bit of a zigzag the other way. Now you'll be able to see really clearly where I've re-inked. And then I'm going to use my bone folder and I'm going to massage it in. And you can see straight away where I've massaged it in, because what's happening is it's going into the base of the foam. Okay? So where I've pressed it, it's gone down into the foam. So I can probably put a little bit more on. But I would not put any more on than that. Okay. If you find when you start stamping with your re-inked ink pad, you're getting bubbles, you've got too much ink on. You've put too much ink on. Go little and often and see. But whenever you put your re-inker on, massage it in like I've done, and then seal it back up again and leave it for a few hours. Allow it to settle down so that the ink can kind of balance out. If you need to use it straight away, that's okay. You can use it straight away. Just make sure when you're doing that, that afterwards you then just leave it for a little bit of time. Okay, so any questions about the inks or the ink pads or the re-inking? Right, so lots and lots of recommendations for Versamark. Absolutely. Yeah, Versamark is absolutely the one to use. I love it. Right, so I'm just going to put these bits of kitchen roll. Look at the state of my hands already. It's only been 2 minutes. And we'll do that now. I was being quite fierce earlier explaining about how to store your ink pads. I've got ink everywhere. And it's really important that if it has the Stampin' Up name on it, you store it flat so you can read it. But these 3 inks are not Stampin' Up inks. And all of them are not stored. The ink pad is stored like this, flat. Whereas in ours, the ink pad is stored upside down. So you can store these upside down. If you are likely to get too confused, store everything the right way up because I don't want these ones to leak. But the Memento, the Versamark and the Stays On will all work for you better if you store them upside down. And the reason for that is really simple. The reason Stampin' Up designed their ink pad so that the ink is stored upside down is that this ink on the surface is ready to go. Yeah? Because the ink kind of flows down onto the top surface. Whereas with these ink pads, they're stored this way so the ink sinks to the bottom. So you will find generally that if you store these this way up, they will work better for you. Okay, right. Well, unless you've got any more questions, like Amanda, why do you get so inky? Right, so Val is saying, with the white pigment new uninked, did it take the whole bottle? I'm doing it now and it seems a bit dry after 2 passes. No, I think the first time I did it, it was about 1/3 of a bottle, 1/3 to maybe half. It shouldn't be drying out that quickly, Val. So try it again. The thing that I have found though, so it's this ink pad. The thing I have found with the craft ink pad is we don't tend to use it very often. So I do when I know I'm going to use it, I do put a little squirt of ink on it. But that doesn't quite sound right. Sue's going to turn her Stays On and Versamark and Memento the other way up. Yay! Okay, so I have realised now the card that I'm going to make today, I've only brought paper and cards and patterned paper and cardstock with me. I have not bought a set of stamps to put a greeting on this card. So I'm going to make this card with no greeting on it. But I will put a picture of the finished card later up. Thank you. Lots of comments about useful re-inking tips. Right, so Val's saying it's not dry exactly, just not fully loaded. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if it's not making any difference to the way that you're stamping, I wouldn't worry about it too much. Yeah. But try giving it a bit more ink. That might work. Okay. Right. I have got to make a card blank and layers. So these are my standard mats and layers. So this card blank is 8 inches by 5 3/4, and I'm scoring it at 4. I've then got a layer. I will write this down in a second. I've then got a layer that is 3 3/4 by 5 1/2. And I'm using today this. There's a surprise. It's the butterfly paper. But I'm actually using the sort of Calypso Coral and the So Saffron bits of this. And I'm actually going to make 2 cards, or make 2 card blanks, should I say, so I can decide which way round I want my colours. It will make sense in a minute, I promise. So right. Rubbish. Right, okay. So I'll write on that bit in a second. I will write all of the measurement sizes in a second. Let me just chop. There's the bit that I trimmed off earlier. Okay. Right, so let me just write down these sizes. So my card blank is 8 inches by 5 3/4 inches, scored at 4 inches. Layer 1 is 3 3/4 inches by 5 1/2. Yeah, Marlene's saying, has the trimmer got a clear covering on it? Yes, it does, Marlene. Mine doesn't, because I've piggled mine off. But yes, you need to piggle it off. It's like a film. Yeah, piggle it off. Technical term. Okay, so Right. Okay. These are all the measurements. I will make sure that it all makes sense in a minute. So, to make this card, we need some squares that are 1 1/4 inches square. So, let me move that along. So on this trimmer, one of the really cool things is you can measure up to like 1 1/2 inches on this side, on this right hand side. So that works really well. If you want to do that. So they need to be 1 1/4 inches. So I've got 3 different patterns here. Oh no, actually I'm going to use both sides of this one. So it'll be 4, I think. So, you know all those teeny tiny scraps of paper that you keep keeping that are threatening to overrun your craft room? You could sit and chop up some of your paper pieces. Now, if you are really lucky and you have a 1 1/4 inch punch or a 1 1/2 inch punch, square punch, you wouldn't even have to cut them. I don't. Stampin' Up doesn't do one, sadly. So I think yeah, I have to cut them. In actual fact, I'm going to just use those 3 patterns. So what we're going to do with our little squares is we are taking a white layer, and I need some grid paper actually. You want some grid paper or a silicone mat, and we have done, over this past year of craziness, we have done several sort of strips and patterns of card, but this is a really fun one. So you want your Tombow glue, and you're going to take one of your squares, and the reason I like using the grid paper is because you can kind of centralize it. So let's have a look. So 1, 2 3/4 that way, 2 3/4 that way. So I am going to put this first square, I'm going to put it in as a diamond in the middle-ish, and actually I want to do it that way so my butterflies are flying that way. Okay, so I'm putting that one down, and then I'm going to put 2 more, and I'm leaving a small gap in between the 2. like so. I've managed to get pink ink. How have I managed? Look at the state of my hands. Yep. And then you're going to put another one on. And we are just going to build up a pattern. Like this. And you're going to end up with some of these squares just hanging over the edge. And that is absolutely fine. Because we will be trimming these off later, and I might have to cut some more squares in a minute. So let's put that one there. Put up that one there. Why'd you get glue everywhere? Probably, Marlene, because you squeeze your Tombow too much. That is the usual reason why people get too much glue, because they've just squished it too much. Okay, so you're going to build up your pattern. I'm going to run out of pieces here, so I'm just going to cut a few more. And it depends how you position them as to what kind of effects you get. So let me cut some more and then I can show you again with a second one. So you can cover over the whole of your piece of paper, or you can do it in segments and just an edge. So I'm going to carry on with this one and then I will show you a different one. Right. Okay. I'm going to use this one as well, but I'm actually just looking mainly for the bits of yellow butterfly. There's all sorts of laughing in sympathy for the fact that Anne sometimes even gets glue in her hair. That's sad. It's not good. It's not good. Do get dimensionals and glitter everywhere. So there we go. Right. So I'm just going to pop that one in there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to trim off roughly these bits that are overhanging. I am going to trim them better in a minute. But what I want to do is these bits that are overhanging, we can use to fill out some of the little gaps there, look, see? And then I need a little bit for there. Oop, needs a bit more glue. There we go. So like that. Stick. Yeah. Okay. I'm just going to move that grid paper out of the way for a minute. So what I've got now is this lovely patterned edge, and I'm going to cut the layer down to 3.5 by 5.25. So I'm going to cut a little bit off the bottom edge so that that edge is nice and straight. And we're going to cut along there. And along there. And that then gives us a lovely clean edge. So it means then that these edges are nice and square. So then we can layer this. So this is why I ended up with 2 cards and 2 lots of layers to decide which way round I was going to put them. And I think, so are we going this way or this way? I think we're going to go this way. Okay, so I'm just going to stick that together. Now obviously this needs a sentiment, and you also need to decide how that's, you know, where are you going to put your sentiment? You can, of course, build it up further and cover the whole thing, and that's what I'm going to do in a second with another piece. So that then gives you a really lovely pattern effect. It's like a tiled effect that you can use your small pieces of patterned paper on. Here's one I made earlier. And this is exactly the same, but whereas this is kind of offset at an angle, this one is very much more straight and aligned. So with this one, I started here. With these, you want to start with these 2 here, lined up point to point, and then have your squares very square on. So like a mosaic, absolutely like a mosaic. So I am just going to get another piece of white, bring in the grid paper, and just start with that piece, and I'm actually going to start with that in the middle. And then the important thing is to make sure that your points are all vertical, as otherwise it's just not going to work. Okay, so then we're just going for the edges, and this also shows you if you're not cutting quite straight. So that's why I say if you've got a punch, that's going to work really well, but just take your time when you're cutting. Ooh, I need some more of that. Hang on, I've got one there. And the brilliant thing about the Stampin' Up papers is because all the colours coordinate together, you will find that in one paper pack you've got so many different shades or different pieces that will kind of coordinate together. It's really easy. Just cut a couple of those, but they just have to be square. You can do it with 1-inch squares, but 1 1/4 means that you don't have to cut quite as many. I'm thinking of you and how long you have to spend with your trimmer. So again, when you get to your edges, you are just overlapping. Because we're going to trim this down. Do. I'm running out of pattern paper. That isn't possible, is it really? Okay, so I need some more of that. Ooh. Let's do those two. That one, because that one's got lots of yellow on it, so I want that one. So I'm popping that there. Da, da. The thing is, you can sit here and you'll be going, oh, and I can turn that and I can do that. And it can go that way. Oh. Right, I'm going to pop that one in there, and then I am just going to trim some of these off. Remember when we did the paper strips and I said whatever you do, don't stick it onto the grid paper, put it on a silicone mat. Who forgot their silicone mat today? Right, so let's snip that one off, because that one can go in there like so, and then I think we need another bit of the sort of cloud effect one. So let's go with the yellows. Yeah. That's why this yellow cloud sort of effect is really cool, because although it's the same piece of paper, it's, you know, you've got really Calypso coral there, really so saffron there, and then you've got a piece like that which is both. Okay, so there we go. So again, I'm just going to trim off kind of the excess bits, and then we'll put it on the trimmer and we will show you. Now, if your glue isn't quite dry, you will end up potentially with a bit of glue on your trimmer. So be aware of that. And just clean up. So we're cutting it down to 3.5. By 5.25. So there again are the measurements. So let's stick that one down. And then I'll bring them in and you can see. So this is super cool look. It looks like it's almost like a trellis. And you've got all the shades. And obviously you could swap out one of these squares for your sentiment. I'm actually, on this one, I'm actually going to stamp my sentiment just there. Or when I take it downstairs, so I can. So look, so there's your two different variations, as it were. So, you know, that's the whole thing covered, and that's a smaller section. Or again, if you really want it all straight lines, you can go with that one. Roz is saying that she loves the colours, and Judith's saying it's really effective. Thank you, Michelle. Rose is going to catch us up. Oh, Margaret's saying they're brilliant. Oh, bless you. Thank you so much. I'm sorry there's no sentiments on them. But I will, by the time they go on my blog, and then tomorrow I'll put pictures back on Facebook or with them finished. So you'll be able to see. But it's just such a fun technique, and you know, you can use up all those scraps that you've been hoarding, because I know it's like I can see through your Facebook screen into your store of little scraps of paper. Lots of people are saying that they're going to be making some of these. That is awesome. Yeah, Pat, that is such a good thing to do. So Pat said, these are great cards to make, and then you can add the sentiments later. Thanks, Pat. That makes me feel so much better. that I hadn't actually done that. I hadn't brought my sentiment stamp set with me. But you're right. And actually, I now do have quite a few cards that I don't put sentiments on. And when I make them, and then I put the sentiments on afterwards, because then, you know, you can put the right sentiment on. Ideal for men. Faye says she doesn't know what I'm talking about. She's got no scraps in her in her craft room. And Anne is saying she loves scrappy projects. And thanks for the info on inking. Yeah, so Jenny's saying this is a great masculine card. So this actually we made at team training on Saturday, and these are the papers from the Well Suited product suite. And if you are doing the March craft along with me, these are some of the papers that you're getting in your kit, which are really, really lovely. But yeah, this is a great man's card. Yeah, lots of people are saying that they often make cards and don't put sentiments on. Genius. Genius. Excellent. Okay. So thank you so much, as always, for joining me today on my Tuesday afternoon craft and chat. I'm live every Tuesday at 2 o'clock on my Inspiring Inkin Facebook page. If you are watching this on the replay, either on YouTube or on my blog, I'm sorry you can't actually see the comments because this was filmed live. So that's why I sort of call out all the comments as we go. All of the products that you've seen today can be purchased from my online store. We have got a special offer starting at 11 p.m. today, Tuesday the 16th of March, running all the way through Wednesday the 17th of March, which is free shipping if you place an order of £35 or €40. And of course, if your order is £40 or €45, you will qualify for the April craft along. So if you're thinking about placing an order, make sure you take advantage of the free shipping. So take care, and I will see you all next week. Goodbye.